Jack Sterling stood in his penthouse, a king surveying a kingdom he no longer wanted. Below, the city glittered like a carpet of shattered diamonds. For 30 years, he had been the titan behind Sterling Dynamics, the world's largest and most formidable defense contractor. He'd built an empire of steel and secrets, earning the title of the Ghost of Wall Street. A name whispered in boardrooms, a phantom on the Forbes list whose face was rarely seen but whose power was always felt. But the throne was cold. His wife, Eleanor, the only person who saw the man and not the magnate, had been gone for 5 years. All he had left was his son, Michael. The elevator chimed, and Michael entered with his new wife, Tiffany, whose eyes scanned the priceless art with undisguised greed. "Father," Michael said, his tone clipped and businesslike. "We need to talk." Jack turned from the window. "I told you, Michael. I'm retiring. I've signed over the controlling shares to you. The empire is yours. I just want to spend my remaining years with my family. With my future grandchild." Tiffany scoffed, a brittle, unpleasant sound. "About that," she said, placing a manicured hand on her small baby bump. "This penthouse is magnificent, but it's not exactly baby-proof. And frankly, with all the entertaining we'll be doing as the new face of Sterling Dynamics, having you underfoot would be awkward." Jack felt a cold dread creep into his chest. "What are you saying?" Michael wouldn't meet his eyes. "We need the space, Dad. We're selling the house in the Hamptons. This will be our primary residence. We've arranged a comfortable suite for you at a luxury retirement community upstate." A luxury retirement community. A gilded cage to replace his current one. The words were a slap in the face. He had given his son everything, an Ivy League education, a position he didn't earn, and now an entire global empire. "You're throwing me out?" Jack's voice was dangerously quiet. "It's not personal, it's practical," Michael said, finally looking up, his eyes cold and hard. The eyes of a predator Jack himself had mistakenly created. "The papers are already drawn up. Your things will be moved tomorrow. It's for the best." Jack looked at his son, truly saw him for the first time, and felt nothing but a vast, aching emptiness. The king had been deposed. Not by a rival, but by his own blood. He nodded slowly, his pride the only thing he had left. "Fine. Don't bother with the movers. I'll be gone in the morning." He walked past them, grabbed a single leather duffel bag he'd kept from his army days, and packed only the essentials. A few changes of clothes, a worn photo of Eleanor, and a simple, untraceable debit card with enough cash for a man to disappear. Not a billionaire, just a man. 3 weeks later, Jack was a ghost of a different kind. He'd drifted south, ending up in a wealthy suburb of Connecticut. He found himself standing before the iron gates of Northwood Preparatory Academy, a place of old money and older traditions. It was the school his beloved Eleanor had attended. She had loved it, and her anonymous donations had kept its library pristine for decades. He needed a purpose. He needed to feel grounded, and protecting the last place that held her happy memories felt like a fitting penance. He walked into the administration office. The man behind the desk, a portly fellow with a slick comb-over and a nameplate that read Dean Harmon, looked him up and down with disdain. "Can I help you?" Harmon asked, his voice oozing condescension. "I saw the sign. You're looking for custodial staff," Jack said, his voice even. Harmon chuckled. "A bit old for this line of work, aren't you, pal? This is a prestigious institution. We require a certain caliber." "I'm a hard worker," Jack stated simply. "And I'm reliable." Harmon, seeing a chance to hire cheap labor he could push around, smirked. "Fine. The pay is minimum wage. You'll answer to me." "Your name?" "Jack," he said, leaving off the surname that could buy this entire town 10 times over. "Just Jack." Headmistress Emma Vance ran Northwood with the precision of a military general. She was brilliant, dedicated, and beautiful in a severe, untouchable way. They called her the Ice Queen behind her back, a title she secretly hated but publicly embraced as a shield. The school was her life, but it was under siege. Enrollment was down, donors were pulling out, and Dean Harmon was circling like a vulture, whispering poison to the school board. Her first encounter with the new janitor was brief. She saw an older man mopping the marble floors of the main hall, his movements efficient and strangely dignified. "You're the new hire?" she asked, her tone crisp and professional. Jack looked up, and for a fleeting second, his piercing blue eyes seemed to see right through her defenses. It was unsettling. "Yes, ma'am." "Jack. See that you keep the halls immaculate, Jack. We have a reputation to uphold." She turned and walked away, dismissing him from her mind. He was just the janitor, another cog in the machine she was struggling to keep running. A few weeks into his new life, Jack was locking up late one rainy evening. A scream from the alley behind the gymnasium sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. He didn't hesitate. Rounding the corner, he saw two lowlifes cornering a young woman, trying to snatch her purse. "Leave her alone," Jack said, his voice a low growl that held more command than any shout. The thugs laughed. "Or what, old man? You'll hit us with your mop." The first one lunged. Jack moved with a fluid economy of motion that belied his age. It was the training from his long-forgotten days in special forces, a skill set a CEO never needed but never truly forgot. A quick block, a twist, and the man was on the ground, groaning. The second thug pulled a knife, but Jack disarmed him with a precise strike to the wrist, sending the blade clattering onto the wet pavement. The men scrambled away into the darkness. He turned to the young woman, who was staring at him wide-eyed. "Are you all right, miss?" I think so," she stammered, clutching her purse. "You saved me. Who are you?" "Just the janitor," he said with a small, reassuring smile. "Let me walk you to your car." It turned out the young woman was Chloe, Emma Vance's daughter, home from her first year at college. The next day, Emma Vance summoned Jack to her office. The Ice Queen facade was gone. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and frantic worry. Chloe stood beside her. "My daughter told me what you did," Emma said, her voice softer than he'd ever heard it. I don't have words to thank you. Anyone would have done the same," Jack said humbly. "No," Chloe interjected. "He was amazing, Mom. Like a secret agent." Emma managed a weak smile before her expression hardened with anxiety again. "Jack, I am in a desperate situation, and what you did last night showed me you are a man of character. A man I might be able to trust." She took a deep breath. "Dean Harmon is trying to oust me. He's found an archaic clause in the school's founding charter. To retain my seat on the board against a challenge, the headmistress must be married. He's calling for a vote in 3 months." Jack stared at her, processing the absurdity. "He's using that against you? He knows I'm single. He knows I've dedicated my life to this school instead of a relationship." She looked at him, her eyes pleading. "I need to present a stable front. I need a husband. On paper." Jack was stunned into silence. "It would be a contract," she rushed on, mistaking his silence for refusal. "Purely a business arrangement. You would be compensated. We would live in the same house for appearances, but lead separate lives. After the board vote, we file for a quiet divorce. Please, you would be saving more than just my job. You would be saving this school." He looked at this proud, desperate woman and saw a reflection of his own recent fall. She was a leader being betrayed by a subordinate. He thought of Eleanor's legacy. He had nothing to lose and, for the first time in years, a battle worth fighting. "I don't want your money," Jack said finally, "but I will help you." Their wedding was a sterile 10-minute affair at the city courthouse. Their witnesses were Chloe and a bemused clerk. They didn't even look at each other as they said, "I do." That night, he moved his single duffel bag into the guest room of her large, beautiful, but lonely house. The silence between them was a chasm. "Thank you again, Jack," she said stiffly at his door. "The guest room has its own bathroom. Please, make yourself at home." He just nodded. They were husband and wife, and they were complete strangers. Dean Harmon's attacks began immediately. A week before a major fundraising gala, the school's ancient heating system mysteriously failed, plunging the historic building into a deep, damp cold. Repair estimates were astronomical and would take weeks. Harmon publicly blamed deferred maintenance under Emma's leadership. Emma was frantic. But Jack, after a quick look at the boiler, recognized the problem instantly. It wasn't just old. A crucial pressure valve had been deliberately sabotaged. This was the kind of industrial system he'd overseen in 100 Sterling Dynamics factories. That night, using a few tools from his truck and a part he found at an all-night industrial supply store across the state, paid for with a call to his former COO and delivered by a silent courier, he fixed it. The next morning, the school was warm. Emma found him in the boiler room, wiping grease from his hands. How did you do this?" she asked, baffled. "The engineers said it was impossible." Jack just shrugged. "Guess I'm good with my hands." He then pointed out the exact nature of the sabotage, leaving her to draw her own conclusions about Dean Harmon. The Ice Queen's gaze began to change. She wasn't just looking at a janitor anymore. Slowly, the lines of their contract began to blur. He'd find her asleep over paperwork in her study and quietly drape a blanket over her shoulders. She started leaving a hot cup of coffee on the kitchen counter for him in the mornings. One evening, she found him staring at the worn photo of his late wife. "She was beautiful," Emma said softly. "She was," Jack replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Her name was Eleanor. She believed people were more important than profits. A lesson it took me too long to learn." He told her about his life, not the billionaire parts, but the human parts, the loneliness, the feeling of being a figurehead in his own family. Emma, in turn, confessed her fears for the school, her dream of creating a place that valued integrity over prestige. In the quiet of her home, the Ice Queen and the janitor found common ground. They found friendship. The worst day came unexpectedly. Emma was giving a tour to a prospective family when Jack saw them. His heart stopped. It was Michael and Tiffany, looking to enroll their son in the most prestigious school in the region. Their eyes met across the manicured lawn. Michael's face went from confusion to disbelief, then to cruel, mocking amusement. Well, Michael said loudly, striding over. "Look what we have here. Father, I see you found work befitting your new station in life. Mopping floors. How utterly perfect." Tiffany laughed, a sound like grinding glass. "Don't get too close, Mikey. You might get pour on you." Jack stood, his face a mask of stone, the humiliation a burning fire in his gut. But then, something unexpected happened. Emma stepped forward, placing a hand on Jack's arm. Her voice was pure ice. "I am Headmistress Vance," she said, her eyes flashing. "And this is my husband, Jack. I think you'll find Northwood is not the right fit for your family. The tour is over. Please leave the grounds immediately." Michael and Tiffany stared, flabbergasted, as Emma stood her ground, defending her janitor husband against the heir to a global empire. In that moment, Jack knew their contract had become something real. The board meeting was in 2 days. Dean Harmon played his final, devastating card. Using a shell corporation, he had bought up an old, forgotten debt of the school's. He was calling it in, demanding immediate payment of a sum so large it would bankrupt Northwood instantly. Emma was shattered. She had failed. That night, she broke down in front of Jack. "He's won," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Everything I've worked for, everything Eleanor loved, it's all going to be destroyed. They're going to remove me from the board and sell the land to developers. It's over." Jack put a steadying hand on her shoulder. He looked at this brilliant, strong woman, now so completely broken. The time for secrets was over. "It's not over," he said, his voice calm and full of a strange, new authority. "Get some rest. I will handle Dean Harmon." The boardroom was a tomb. Dean Harmon was preening, laying out the school's financial ruin with faux sympathy. "And so," he concluded, with a heavy heart, "I must call for the immediate removal of Headmistress Vance and the dissolution of the school's current charter." The board members, grim-faced, began to raise their hands. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," The voice echoed from the back of the room. Every head turned. The doors swung open. Standing there was not Jack the janitor. Standing there was a man who radiated power. He was dressed in a bespoke suit that cost more than Harmon's car. He was flanked by two of the most ruthless corporate lawyers in New York City. He walked to the front of the room, his blue eyes locking onto the sputtering Dean Harmon. He placed a folder on the polished table. "My name," he said, his voice resonating with quiet authority, "is Jack Sterling, founder and, until recently, CEO of Sterling Dynamics." A collective gasp went through the room. Harmon's face went white as a sheet. Emma stared, her mind reeling, unable to connect the man before her with the man who fixed her boiler. "As for this debt," Jack continued, tapping the folder, "it's been paid, in full, an hour ago. I know because the shell corporation that bought it, HD Holdings, is a subsidiary of a company I've had my eye on for some time." He smiled, a cold, predatory smile. "You're a sloppy man, Harmon. It only took my team 20 minutes to trace it all back to you." He turned to the stunned board. "Furthermore, I am not just saving Northwood. As of this morning, my personal foundation has acquired this institution. Consider it under new management." "My management." He looked at Emma, his expression softening. "And my first act as the new chairman of the board is to give a vote of absolute and unconditional confidence to our headmistress, Emma Vance Sterling." The aftermath was swift. Dean Harmon was fired, facing a host of fraud charges. Michael, upon hearing the news, had reportedly been physically ill, realizing he had not only thrown away his father but also any chance of his son attending the now most talked about school in the country. That evening, Jack found Emma on the veranda of their home, staring at the stars. He walked over and stood beside her, handing her the marriage contract from his pocket. "I believe this is yours." She took it but didn't look at it. "Jack Sterling," she said, testing the name, "the richest, most reclusive man in the world, has been cleaning my toilets." A small, hysterical laugh escaped her. "I had to find my way back to something real," he said softly. "You, this school. You were real." He gently took the contract from her fingers and tore it in half. "Our arrangement is over," he said. He then went down on one knee, taking her hand. This time there were no courtrooms, no contracts, no pretenses. There was only the truth in his eyes. "Emma Vance," he said, his voice full of a lifetime of emotion. "You defended me when I was a janitor. You stood by me when I had nothing. You are the finest, strongest, most incredible woman I have ever known. Will you do me the honor of being my wife? For real this time?" Tears streamed down her face, but this time they were tears of joy. The Ice Queen had melted, completely and forever. "Yes," she whispered. "Oh yes, Jack, yes." He rose and pulled her into his arms, and under the starlit sky, the janitor who was secretly a king finally kissed his queen. His empire wasn't in a skyscraper anymore. It was right here in his arms. And so, the king who had once ruled a lonely empire of steel and shadows found his true kingdom in the halls of a humble school and the heart of a remarkable woman. Jack Sterling's journey from a penthouse prison to the arms of his queen wasn't about reclaiming his fortune. It was about rediscovering his worth. He proved that a person's true value is not measured by their bank account or their title, but by their character, their courage, and their capacity to love. From the ultimate betrayal to the ultimate vindication, Jack and Emma's story is a timeless tale of second chances, showing us that sometimes you have to lose everything to find what truly matters. We hope you were wowed by this story of secrets, sacrifice, and soulmates. What was your favorite moment? The shocking boardroom reveal? The instant Emma defended her janitor husband? Leave a comment below and let us know. And for more unforgettable romances and thrilling tales of hidden billionaires, be sure to follow Quinn Timeless Tales. Your next great escape is waiting.